Uh, Good morning. The program subcommittee is holding this meeting virtually due to the current public health emergency. This meeting is being held using Microsoft Teams. A video of this meeting will be provided on our website in accordance with the Open Meeting Act requirements. Preliminarily, I would like to review the ground rules for the meeting. All microphones will be muted. We ask that each of you hold all questions or comments until the end of each presentation. Please announce yourself by name when speaking so that any attendees on the phone can identify you. If you are joining the meeting by phone, press *6 to unmute yourself. The public was invited to submit written comments on any agenda item up to 24 hours prior to the meeting. Those comments, if received, will be read by commission staff at the appropriate time. And Nick, I know you already did it, but for the record, if you could be so kind as to call the roll of those members in attendance.
Sure thing. So once again, the list that I have are Commissioner Greer, Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Taylor, Commissioner Ferguson, Commissioner Malkus, Commissioner Hewitt, Commissioner Merritt, Commissioner Cornwell, Commissioner Lewis, and I believe Commissioner Mulkey just signed one as well.
Okay. So with that, has everybody had a chance to read the minutes of our last meeting?
This is Commissioner Taylor. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Is there a second?
Commissioner Lewis, second.
Second by Commissioner Lewis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes. The minutes are approved. The first item on the agenda is the Anne Arundel County Growth Allocations Provisions Text Amendment. And I believe Jennifer Esposito is presenting. So with that, Jennifer, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chair Greer. If once I'm in presentation mode, I won't be able to see you. So if you can just give me a verbal indication that you can see my screen and that you can hear me okay, I will appreciate that. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Can you guys see my presentation okay?
We can.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Great. Good afternoon, I guess now it is. Again, my name is Jennifer Esposito. I'm presenting a text amendment on behalf of Anne Arundel County. And this is under bill number 7122, which amends sections of the county zoning code relating to the growth allocation process. Before I get into the details of the bill, I just want to provide a bit of a growth allocation refresher. With growth allocations, there are 5 standards that have to be met and several factors that will need to be considered by the commission when a growth allocation is proposed. The standards consist of required adjacency, so for a new IDA or LDA to be adjacent to existing IDA or LDA. Also to minimize impacts to HPAs, optimize water quality benefits, and for new IDA or LDA to be an RCA located 300 feet beyond the mean high water. Some of the factors to be considered consist of new IDA to be served by public sewer and water, and for new IDA greater than 20 acres to be located in a priority funding area. COMAR section 27010203.b requires for new IDA to be at least 20 acres in size. However, under Natural Resources article and within COMAR, there is flexibility provided to the local jurisdiction to propose alternative standards to the adjacency standards previously mentioned, and within COMAR to provide alternative standards to the size requirements for new IDAs. All alternative standards must be reviewed and approved by the commission, and any requests for new IDAs must be part of the growth allocation, which will also have to be approved by the commission. Bill 7122 amends 3 sections of the county code pertaining to the growth allocation process. The first change is to section 18-13-401 of the county code. That change provides alternative standards to allow for IDA to be located in an area less than 20 acres in size. Those standards include that the proposal allows for the redevelopment of existing commercial use in compliance with current stormwater management requirements, allows for land use consistent with the county's general development plan, and supports the established character of the community, provides for suitable infill development, and provides for the preservation of existing community assets. So effectively, these are becoming standards for which growth allocation less than 20 acres would have to meet. The second change to the growth allocation process amends section 18-13-402 of the code relating to the growth allocation eligibility. Currently, the county code limits growth allocation requests to existing or proposed commercial use zone properties. The proposed amendment changes that to existing proposed non-residential uses. And not to confuse the first amendment that I just covered, which was adding additional standards to allow for new IDA to be less than 20 acres. This is for any growth allocation proposal. And the third and last change changes or amends the way in which the growth allocation approval can be rescinded. Bill 7122 modifies the section of the code that governs the criteria for which growth allocation approvals can be rescinded by operation of law for projects that do not require subdivision if the required permits and the development does not commence within the required timeline. The exact language is on page 2 of the signed bill. So with that, staff recommends that the commission concur with the chairman's determination that this text amendment be processed as a refinement to the Anne Arundel County's critical area program. Further, staff recommends that the chairman approve the text amendment as proposed. And with that, I'll turn it over for any questions.
Thanks, Jennifer. Before I open it up for questions, I just had a quick one. As I read this under 18-13-401, am I correct that in order to obtain the approval under that section, you would need to meet all 3 requirements, not just one? Am I reading that correctly?
That is correct. That's an and for
Okay.
all of that. Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from members of the commission?
Yeah, could we see a map of the areas that might be affected by this change?
So I don't have a map that would show exactly the areas that would be affected, but Anne Arundel County does have the map, which I pulled up here, which is their planned land use categories. And again, for are you sorry, Commissioner, are you asking specifically for the new IDA to be less than 20 acres?
Yeah, I was wondering specifically what areas that might impact.
So again, this is for areas that would have to be consistent with the county's general development plan, which would be already slated for infill, refill, suitable for infill development. And it would have to be for existing commercial uses. Or for the redevelopment, also for existing commercial uses. So there's no area specifically that this would target, but they'd have to meet these standards in order to be able to apply for a growth allocation less than 20 acres in size. Additionally, I do know that there's one particular property in mind that is waiting for this approval. So I'm pretty sure a growth allocation will be coming down the pipeline to you in the near future. And this is for I believe like a market store, as you see in this picture in was it Gainesville? I believe Gainesville. but it's for something very similar to this low market house that you see here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Merritt, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, yeah, that answers it. I was wondering if a map had been prepared of where the locations where all those conditions would be met, but that's I got the answer. Thank you.
Hi, this is Commissioner Taylor, and I do have a question about when the permit or the occupancy is not issued, it expires in 3 years from that time frame. Is that typical? A 3-year open window, I guess, for change?
Well, it also, the development would have to commence, right? So things happen within that time, within a time frame that could delay the completion of a development. So I think I'm like just now looking at the specific language, and I believe the language just is really a cleanup of how the if this then that language was written. I think the timeline itself did not change. It just says it was certificate of occupancy is not issued, was the language removed, and the required permits are not complete within the 3 years of date. So there's other permits and approvals that they wanted to capture within that timeline. From what I know of the other jurisdictions that I do work with, there is a specific timeline, and the 3 years is not out of the ordinary realm.
So they have, just to clarify, so once they submit a permit, they have 3 years to obtain occupancy?
So now then the new language states that, and I can just read it, when a subdivision is not required, action to commence the development has not begun within 1 year of the date of approval by the county council or critical area commission, or whichever is later, and the required permits are not completed within 3 years of the date of approval by the county council or critical area commission, whichever is later, then the growth allocation can be rescinded.
Okay. So I guess you answered the question earlier when you said it's pretty typical to have a 3-year window from the time the permit is submitted.
Jen, do you mind if I weigh in a little
Sure.
bit on growth allocation rescission? Sure. It's up to each jurisdiction. It's not specified in COMAR. Some jurisdictions don't have any rescission specified in their code. The issue with that then is a growth allocation could be approved and the project never go forward. And so jurisdictions have opted to, knowing it's sort of particularly those jurisdictions that are running out of growth allocation, such as Anne Arundel County, they want to be able to use it again if a project is no longer going to proceed.
Okay. The second question I have, thank you for clarifying that. The second question was related to the 3 standards that Commissioner Greer was asking about. I think she said that, I think the answer was all 3 have to be achieved. And the third one, if you could go back to that particular page, seemed to be somewhat vague in the standard. So I don't know how they would measure if they're meeting the character of the community or defining suitable infill. I mean, that might be a difficult standard to obtain if there isn't greater clarity than that.
Do we have anyone on the county, from the county, to be able to help answer
Jen,
that question?
Kelly Krinitz is here, so she might be able to answer some of the questions that have been coming up.
Kelly, are you able to? Are you there, Kelly?
Hear me now?
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So do you want me to back up a little bit on a couple of the things that didn't completely get answered, or just start with this one?
Sure. Well,
we don't have a map that shows us exactly where the areas would be. Some of the uses that we think may end up using these are small. There's some small neighborhood type marinas that can't make any improvements because of lot coverage limitations. The store that was shown, just small businesses like that that have been in existence for quite some time, and because they're mapped LDA, being able to go in and do any sort of upgrading or renovating is difficult. So they're not mapped, but we kind of have a general thought of the businesses that we would see coming in. Anne Arundel County does limit their growth allocation to only commercial uses. So we don't allow this for residential uses. So we wouldn't anticipate new residential subdivisions or anything like that, just small businesses coming in that wanted to make some upgrades. Which is why we do realize that last condition is a little bit vague. But the goal there, kind of in working with the new GDP, is the thought would be that these businesses would come in and be in keeping with the areas that are already, that they're in. Not that you come in and get a new strip mall in a small neighborhood or something like that. That the goal is to make improvements to the businesses that are already there, but not create really an opportunity to come in and change the character of a neighborhood because now you have IDA on property. That help?
Yes, thank you. This is Commissioner Taylor. That helps me, and I support the measure. I just think that if someone were to challenge that, you're going to have some struggles to clarify what you mean by that.
We're used to that.
I'm sure you are.
I mean, we do have a limited amount, but we don't have very many applications for growth allocation. So we didn't want to make this so restrictive that people didn't have an opportunity to kind of make corrections to some policies and regulations that are keeping them from updating practices. But we also just didn't want to make it open-ended. So we think that phrase, in combination with the land use recommendations in our general development plan and our small area type plans, we think we'll be okay with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I think you answered one of the questions I had just now for Steve, but for Commissioner. But I would like to ask too, just in general, will we have visibility to the number of the changes, the number of, bear with me, as we talk about the different permits that are issued, will we be able to monitor or see just how many and just how widespread this ends up being?
So every proposal for a growth allocation request will have to come to the commission for review and approval. And then once that project is approved as a part of this text amendment, as you see at 18-13-405, each particular project that will need to go forward has specific dates for which they have to do so for the permits in order for the growth allocation to be not rescinded. And depending on the type of the development, staff level will be able to review certain site development plans or subdivision plans for review and comment to ensure consistency with the overall, if there were any conditions outlined as required as the growth allocation. But for every growth allocation that is proposed, the commission will review and approve it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and if I could, yes, it does. But if I could just ask another one in broad, do you have any idea in Anne Arundel how many that might be coming down to the commission?
We don't. As I said, we've had this pocket of growth allocation acreage. Most users have, right now, I think we definitely know the marketplace that you just saw. And the goal there is really to allow preservation of a historic structure. And they have a coverage limitation that's keeping them from being able to do so. So I don't see that it would be that many. And even if it was, we have a very limited amount of acreage. So if I'm surprised, and we got a lot of applications. You know, it's a finite amount of acreage that would be available anyway. So once it was used up, it's done, and it's not something that can continue for years.
Yeah, Kelly, I'm pretty sure that our latest records show you guys have about 33 acres, something like that.
So we're not talking about, you know, this going on for years and years and making huge changes in the county.
Thank you.
And if I could just add clarifying for the rescission portion of it, we've always had that 3-year time frame. The language changes were taking out the requirement for an occupancy permit because we're anticipating some of these upgrades might be for parking or something like that. A permit or application that doesn't require an occupancy permit. So there's no way they could meet the condition because one isn't required.
And Kelly, this is Commissioner Greer. I just want to follow up on that and clarify. I read that section that you've got 2 milestones in that section that you have to meet. Am I correct? You have to commence development within 1 year of the date of approval of either the county council or the commission, whichever is later. And then you have to, the permits have to be completed within 3 years of the
Correct.
same approval standards. Okay, so there, I just wanted to make sure.
Whatever method is in place to final that particular permit, that's what has to occur in 3 years. But yeah,
And
it's just keep people from getting it and not using it, and you know, possibly preventing someone else who needs it from getting it.
And the cleanup to 18-13402 from the changing it from commercially used to non-residential uses, that's really tightening the language up, correct? Making it a little more restrictive to ensure that we're not getting some sort of residential use that's been commercial. Am I reading that correctly?
Not really. We've always looked at, we've kind of used the term commercial very broadly and included things like marinas in those. When we put the bill forward, one of the council people was concerned that if our code has commercial zoning, marina zoning, and industrial zoning. So they were concerned that somebody would take the true black and white of the word commercial and only apply it to commercial zoning. And so the intention is that that it's more of a commercial use than a zoning. So you could include marina and industrial. And that's why they just decided if we say non-residential, it would include all 3 of those.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions from the commission members? Hearing none. Kelly, is there anything else that you would like to communicate on behalf of the county to the commission?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, with that and not hearing any further questions, Commissioner Adams, do I hear a motion that the commission concur with the chairman's determination that the text amendment known as Anne Arundel County Bill number 71-22, which amends Article 18-13-401, 402, and 405 of the Anne Arundel County Code, be processed as a refinement to Anne Arundel County's critical area program. Further, that the proposed changes are consistent with the purposes, policies, and goals of the critical area law and regulations, and as such, recommend the chairman approve Anne Arundel County Bill number 71-22 as proposed.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Commissioner Ferguson, second.
Commissioner Ferguson, second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, are there any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously and with the approval of, I believe, Commissioner Ferguson's K9 colleagues. With that, is there a motion, Commissioner Hewitt, to adjourn until 1 o'clock when the full commission meets?
So moved, Chairman Greer.
Commissioner Lewis, is there a second?
I'll second it, but I also want to know from Chairman Deegan how I'm getting my peanut butter cookies.
All those
I'll
in
take,
favor?
go ahead.
I guess we'll have to say that for the afternoon. I might be able to ride down there this weekend.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any objections other than the cookies? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
See you at 1.
Thank you all.
all.
See you, everyone.